Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to a bit of a surprise episode. Um, I know this is kind of out of the blue, and you haven't heard a little announcement thing before an episode before. I just want to preface this episode by saying, somewhere towards the end, me and my guests kind of talk about, the coronavirus, and we talk about our our understanding of it and how we think it works. I cut that segment from the final recording because I don't want to spread any misinformation or anything like that. So, about closer to the end, there's going to be a really abrupt cut. I tried to work around it or edit it to make it sound more fluent. So I apologize for that happening. I know it sounds very weird, but thank you guys. If you stick through this video to the end to hear it, it's gonna sound a little awkward. I'll try my best not to let it happen again if I ever have to edit or cut anything. So thank you guys so much, and on with the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Background Noise Podcast. We have a bit of a surprise episode this time because I haven't really announced anything about this, so this will be interesting. Today, I'm joined by Ian White.
Hello.
Christian Delomo.
Yeah.
And Brayton Whiteley. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Oh,
So
voice crack the very first.
Editor, cut that out.
editor, cut that out.
No.
Okay, so we're just gonna jump into it. I have my timer set. We're just gonna get going. So our first topic to talk about is D&D. I know these guys like D&D quite a lot.
Oh,
so
Obsessively.
Yeah, it's a problem, really.
so when did we'll start with Ian just because he's to the left of me. What got you into D&D?
Okay, I'm the catalyst for our entire group's D&D thing.
I just want to say that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so me and my dad went to Fan Expo.
Yes.
In Dallas, it's like a comic convention, and we saw D&D in like one of the side rooms or something, and you could play for free and just like go in, grab a character sheet, and play some D&D, and I loved it. We proceeded to buy 8 sets of dice and go home and buy the starter set for D&D as well, and we got a couple of people together and started playing D&D. It sort of started with, it was a lot of people. There was like 7, I believe, in the first
Yeah,
week.
it started at 7. Your dad DM'd us for the very beginning.
Yes.
And then,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
That's
so
cool.
I guess I could play off of that because that's where I
Yeah.
come in. So Ian was getting into D&D, and it was like everybody I've ever talked to. When you talk about D&D, everyone always says the exact same thing, which is, I've seen that. I've always wanted to get into it, but just never had the opportunity, never had the chance.
Yeah.
Well, that's how me and Marcus were, which Marcus is another one of our players, another one of our good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Ian was like, "Hey, you guys want to come to our D&D thing? We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some snacks, some chips. It's our second session." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, absolutely." And I had to literally drag Marcus to the car because he was so hesitant on it.
Now he's like one of our best players.
Yeah.
No,
He
like,
gets more
he's
into it
really
than anybody
good.
else.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's really good.
Yeah, it was super fun. And with Ian's dad DMing us, and of course we're like, how old were we? Like 14? It was like
14
freshman year.
It was freshman year.
Yeah, so we were all like 14 and 15.
Yeah, 14, 15.
Getting
Yeah.
into D&D, we were all like socially awkward, didn't do any voices, didn't do any role playing. We just played the base minimum.
My character attacks with Eldritch Blast.
Exactly.
My
That's
character
it.
uses Armor of Agathis.
Now I guess we can.
All the tropes. Just
Flash.
naturally
All
fall
the
into
tropes.
it.
Now I guess we can flash forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to have some fun with this. I'm the DM of the new group.
Yeah.
Ian and Chris right here are one of our 2 best players with Marcus and Preston Lee. Marcus Bean and Preston Lee.
Carson
and
Younger.
Carson Younger. And at times Joe Pimentel whenever he
Oh,
wants
yes,
to
yes.
show up. So
That's
it was
cool.
It was an adventure. It's seriously an adventure, man.
Yeah, that's really cool. Christian, when did you get into it? Did you
I-
same experience with these guys?
I got in a little bit after they did, like just a session or 2 after they did.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I remember right before they invited me, I started listening to like D&D stories just by chance. And one of the
That's cool.
stories was about a Warforged wizard, which is like a golem robot thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I want to be a robot. That sounds cool. So I became a robot monk.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Maybe
I was
ego.
Robot
I was a
monk.
wizard, of course, because I'm a control
Nerd.
freak nerd.
I
So-
started as a warlock because
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
But your first character was
Warlocks
a
are
ranger,
cool.
wasn't it? He was.
Oh
he was
yeah,
the-
the character I did for like before we really got into that D&D group, we played an Adventurers League,
Mhm.
and I played a ranger, and he was pretty cool. I rolled really well on his stats, and I figured out we weren't supposed to roll for stats.
I mean, you can. That's something I noticed.
can.
Like, you notice like big D&D stuff like Critical Role.
Yeah.
They roll for stats.
well,
So
Adventurers
a
League
stickler.
has some
some
restrictions.
restrictions.
Keep it
So
consistent.
what exactly, for those who aren't very keen on D&D, what exactly is a ranger? What's a ranger?
Oh.
A ranger's okay.
Do you want to do it in, or want me to do it?
So imagine, you know, those people that like live off the land that are in like the mountains and stuff. And
Yeah.
They like, I don't know, chop wood and everything.
Yeah.
They're like those, and they have quite the affinity for like outdoors survival
Yeah,
sort of
Yeah.
stuff like that. Tracking.
It's like the hunter warrior
Yeah,
archetype.
yeah.
There's another class in the game called Druid, and they're like these nature people that can control the elements and trees and all that.
can turn
Rangers
into
are like a
animals and
version
stuff.
of those guys, except a little bit tame, and they
Yeah.
have bows and arrows and swords and warriors.
Should we just go through all the classes?
Yeah, I
guess?
mean,
I mean, let's go through the classes that we are at the table,
Yeah.
so we don't have to cover every single one.
The
so-
one.
yeah. So go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm a gunslinger, but that's not exactly one of the mainline classes. It's from somebody else's campaign that we took, and Brayton made his own sort of
Yeah.
stuff for it. And it's a really interesting class. Essentially, you're a fighter with a gun.
Yeah, it's really
and
that's all it is.
And you make engineering feats.
I'd say
and
at
stuff.
one point we should even go over these two guys' characters
Yeah.
because they're really fun. I love
Mm.
Darren and Arthur. What's
Yeah.
his?
So
They're
Ian,
best
and,
buds.
Ian and
Christian,
Chris,
what-
respectively.
what class is
Wizard.
wizard?
The wizard.
The
So
fun.
so those are,
Yes.
I mean, pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's a
magic,
wizard.
magic man.
My last character, yeah, exactly. Magic Man, just pull some,
spells
crazy
out.
stuff.
just-
hijinks.
Yeah.
No one expects
We
it.
got to go
Yeah.
over the library, but
Yeah,
do.
we'll go over that.
My
in a-
last
in a
character
little
was a
bit.
bard, but he was a homebrewed race. He was a beetle folk, so a giant beetle man with a banjo and a glaive and whatever, and he talked like a.
voice.
I can't. I
He
refuse.
can't do
Oh,
that.
I
I can
completely
do I can
refuse.
do my Franklin voice for the podcast at one point. If you guys,
We'll
if you
get
if
to
you
that
and
once we get to the NPCs.
if you and Chris want me to do it.
But
NPCs.
it,
Miss little audience here, be prepared for a lengthy one because this is a big boy. This
Yeah,
D&D
this is,
is
we're unwrapping a big package here.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is a big
so
thing to
many
unpack.
things to go over. But the beetle man Bruford, he was such a weird character that role playing became a chore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
like
and
it was just so much
in fact,
work.
You had to introduce yourself like every time, pretty much.
Yeah.
For any aspiring DMs out there that are looking to do some stuff, this is a perfect example of how to handle this kind of situation. If you notice one of your players, and this is an example with Chris here, if you notice one of your players is not having as much fun as the rest of them, please go out and talk to them about that. Like, interact with them, treat them like a human being. I called Chris one night and I was like, hey man, are you feeling good about this? And he said, I don't know, it's a little tough of a situation. I was like, you just want to swap characters because you're obviously not feeling this one out. And he said, yeah. And so now he's one of his favorite characters of all time. And
I'm a
he's
human
really-
wizard.
Yeah, and he's having so much fun.
That's
Literally the most
So-
normal character I could play, and I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
That's the
oh, yeah,
one-
hey,
so-
sometimes
It
that's
gives
good.
you more room.
That's
you
the
know?
responsibility of a DM.
You're
That
less
seriously is.
pigeonholed into
Yeah,
a role.
you gotta take
I-
care of your players.
I always, I'm known as the human fighter guy because like
Yeah.
I made the two of my best characters I've made were human fighters. I've got this gunslinger and I've got Mark Bland, who is literally meant to be the most basic human fighter character at all.
Just
Oh,
the default skin, default skin.
Default skin boy.
But through that, it made him one of the best characters because he's such like he's comes from a farm and everything, and he's like, it's
just a guy.
He's one of our
He's
favorite
just a guy.
characters.
Just a guy.
He's just a guy.
He's a concept, not a person.
That's really funny. Brayton, so I know you do the DMing, but you have characters, yeah?
Oh yeah, I've had characters in the past. Most of them are in NPCs now.
Yeah,
But,
because you do the DMing.
Yeah.
So Actually, I want to talk about my first character.
Oh,
really
go
quick.
for it, please.
Really quick.
Please.
So my first character, I also got into it pretty recently, probably like mid to late last year, and I pretty much just kind of he's a human barbarian.
Oh, yes.
And I basically just modeled him after Doom Guy from the Doom
you
series.
told me about this one day.
He doesn't talk. He's just really strong, and he just beats the crap out of people.
Oh, barbarian.
His name, instead of being Doom Guy, I named him Chaos Man. And when we would, our DM Joe, he would be like, "You guys are at a campfire. You guys just talk. You know, you guys are in character. Just kind of talk to each other." Someone turns to me and they're like, "So where do you come from?" And it took everything in me not to like smile or burst into laughter because I just had to sit there and just not say a word because that's my character. He doesn't talk.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting there struggling not to smile or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'll say this: it is hard. Like that's another thing
It is.
for other players that are looking at characters like the kind of silent type, the roguish type. You got to be careful with that, you know, because if you're not careful, you'll start limiting yourself.
Yeah, you'll break character.
You'll break character, making it hard. Because especially with people like you, right? You're like a talkative, kind of outgoing person.
Yeah, it's hard for me.
Limiting
to
your personality to that of absolutely not talkative murder hobo kind of guy is really difficult to do. You gotta build a character that has your personality like intertwined in it.
You always like if your character is the exact opposite of you, that's when you're not gonna have fun.
Yeah, that is
That's where we got lucky with our current party is that every single person's character is just them.
Yeah.
But
like
with some
skin.
extreme personality trait tacked on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I did really like playing as Chaos Man.
Oh, yeah,
because
that part is fun.
when it was like when we were doing all like the role playing stuff, you know, it was just kind of I just had to sit there and be quiet until it was done. But the actual like combat was so much fun.
Oh yeah.
Because we would be like there was a bar fight going on and one of the guys in our party called me over, so I ran over. That was my turn, and then I just like to imagine this guy, doesn't say anything. He just shows up to a bar fight and just draws out like a javelin and just starts hurling it at people without a word. He doesn't say like, "Hey, heads up, man, I'm gonna throw this javelin." He just chucks it at people and just starts swinging his sword and throwing punches and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember we were fighting a bunch of enemies. It was like zombies and skeletons, and I kept missing with my swords, and I missed all of my javelins.
That's so brutal.
So I ripped off my armor, and I went into my rage perk or whatever, and it makes me stronger.
Rage.
Yeah, Barbarian Rage. And I rolled a nat 20, and I killed my first enemy with one punch. And it's just little things like that that makes it makes me enjoy playing him so much.
Yeah. So that's something that I think is really fun. That's kind of the part of it that I love so much about D&D, because D&D is. I've been listening to like a lecture on it. And it's a part of the thing that I'm really interested. It's complexity.
Mm-hmm.
D&D isn't just complicated. It's complex. There's so many organically moving parts and pieces to it.
It's simple yet complex.
It's simple yet complex.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because you can do so many things, and it's you just say, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and
it's a
like,
choice. It is the perfect creation of RPG.
Because
when it's true role.
When it comes down to it, D&D isn't a game; it's a system.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always implement your own rules. You can homebrew stuff like Ian's character's a homebrewed subclass.
Or even though the whole world that we're playing in, I made myself. I homebrewed that entire thing.
Yeah, it's cool because you can get into it as much or as little as you want, but still be able to play the game and have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And just in different ways.
Like, I'm pretty sure you guys are all so much, like, infinitely times more knowledgeable about D&D than I ever will be, because I pretty much just had Joe, like, basically just hold my hand while making my character. He pretty much was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna roll for this perk, okay?" And I was like, "Okay, you do whatever you need to do." And he would be like, "What do you want?" And I was like, I don't know, what items do I start with? He's like, "You can do this or this." I was like, "I guess that." And he's like, "Okay, write that down." I was like, "Where do I put that?" So I just had to have him kind of, help me through it. And then I have like, and then I hear like all the wizards, like, "I'm going to cast this spell." And I'm like, I wouldn't even know what my spells are.
Yeah.
I would have to have a separate piece of paper for it. Cause I know again, those who don't play D&D,
Yeah.
you have a character sheet
Chris has
that-
something to show you, Riley.
that
You got
lists
spell
all of
cards.
your lists all of your stuff.
Chris,
And I would have to have like an entirely separate piece of
Yes,
paper
yeah.
just to
That's what
remind
this
me.
guy has to do. That's what
Okay.
Chris has to
The
do.
thing with wizards is most classes, even if they're spellcasters, have other abilities. Like bards can inspire people, and they get all this charming stuff because that's your bard. You know,
yeah, you're
supposed
a
to
singer, you're
Yeah,
a
of
talk to
dancer.
people. Clerics are healers, and they're damage dealers, whatever. Wizards really don't get a lot of abilities outside of spellcasting, but they're the best at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have so many spells
Because it's like,
hard
that's
to
their
keep track
main
of.
thing.
That's their
That
thing.
is
Yeah,
their
they're
thing.
wizards.
They're
Yeah.
just
Yep.
spellcasters.
Same thing with
spellcasters.
clerics to some degree. The same.
So this is-
similar.
So
These
that's-
are spell
Yeah.
cards.
Sorry
These
for
are
the
your
audience,
spell
you can't
cards.
see these. But
I'll
these
take
are
a
really
picture.
cool.
I'll flash it on screen. This will be the first ever image shown on the. Wait here, close it. I'm gonna see how thick this is.
It's pretty.
It's pretty thick.
There you go. I'm gonna
Uh,
flash
it's
this on screen
To give a
later
little
in
bit more
post.
description, it's a little spell book that we had gotten. One of our friends, Marcus, had bought it for Chris and another one of our players. And the D&D kind of people go out of their way and they make these like spell cards. So like we were saying, like I don't even know what my spells are. Well, Chris can
It's
just
all there.
flip in a little
Yeah.
book and he has all the descriptions, all the materials, all the abilities.
That's super helpful.
Because
Yeah,
when
it's
you
super cool.
when you're a wizard and your whole thing is spells, it can be overwhelming to keep track.
Yes.
Like when I was playing my bard character, they were really pushing me to get spell cards because it's like I had all my spells, but I'd have to look up what each of them
Yeah,
did
you
before
have to
I cast
bring
it.
out the
Oh,
super
the rule
huge book.
you pull out
You're
this.
just slam it.
You
Like,
blow the dust off the
like-
cover. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
What's really
That's
funny
cool.
Go
is
take a picture of that.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely take a picture of that. But you'll think you know what your spell is and everything, and then your DM was like, "Well, I thought it was this," and you'd have to.
See,
So
and
you-
I
you
feel
gotta-
bad. You know, as a DM, you feel bad doing that because you're like,
But-
oh, suddenly now I
Your
have
plan
to go
goes out the window.
Yep.
Yeah, it sort of like stops
Mm-hmm.
things.
Well, like-
but
I don't know.
It's like the
something-
heist yesterday.
the
When I
heist.
tried to use alter self, I was like, yeah, I changed my appearance to an old man.
Yeah, but you
And
couldn't change your
I
clothes,
couldn't change my
which is
clothes.
good to know. And that's
Yeah.
And I will say again, and I guess I'll give like DM tips. Brayton's DM tips for the hour is if you're a DM, be sure you know most things of most of everything in the player's handbook because your players don't. They won't.
Yeah.
No.
You can't expect them
Most
to.
of the time. Most
Yeah.
of the time they won't know.
Yeah, you can't be rude to them and not know what you're talking about because if you
Yes.
if they say, "Oh, I want to use alter self," and you don't know how that spell works, it's your responsibility to find that. That is
Yeah.
your job to
You have
know
to-
and find it.
Yeah, you have to help them. You gotta
Mhm.
flip through the book and you gotta help
Make
them
sure
out.
that the rules are rules. You know.
Yeah.
Because that's a big part. A lot of people that are getting into D&D see it as this freaking sandbox that you can do
Mhm.
anything in.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there are pretty explicit rules, you know. That's what
Yeah.
makes it kind of different from most things. It's like a video game that has a bunch of mechanics, but those mechanics are so bendable and not specifically like nailed down. You can just really have fun with it.
Mhm.
It feels
It's,
like-
it's like, go ahead.
If it was a pure sandbox, it wouldn't be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you can do anything, there's no point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you put the rules in place, that's where you have fun because you have to work around limitations.
Mhm.
It's kind of like Star Citizen, which is, those of you that don't know, it's a game that's been in the works for, I want to say about 5 years right by now, and it's essentially open. I say open world. It's a space game,
Yeah.
open universe,
Open universe
game where it's like it has its rules, you know, but you can do literally anything. There's no story. You could be a space merchant, a space pirate, you know, whatever you want, but you have to still like abide by the game's rules. So it's similar to that,
Yeah, exactly.
except obviously it's
Pen
an
and
in
paper.
person. It's like a board game
Board
with big
game.
quotations.
Yeah, I like to call it a pen and paper game.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
really a board game. It's a pen and paper.
pen, paper, and dice.
I'm just gonna keep showing you little things. So with the maps, so a lot of the big things is you have to have like cool, interesting maps to show your players and fun times.
Yeah, you have to
So-
have a lot
oh,
of visual
are you showing
elements.
the custom one?
Yeah, I'm gonna show them some of the drawn maps that I've made.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
Yeah.
I draw out maps on wrapping paper and I have them like walk through it and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
For
So,
the dungeons
Because
and
we have
stuff.
the miniatures. A lot of, I mean, obviously everything that happens in the D&D world is real in the context of the world, but a lot of it's just imagination.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Like you can have miniatures on the table and I walk over here, but you're literally just moving a little piece of plastic. You
yeah.
Yeah.
It's theater of the mind.
Theater
Theater
of
of
the
the
mind.
mind.
Yeah, you have
True
to
theater.
envision everything.
Yeah.
So Brayton, you tapped into you've made your own little world here.
Mhm.
So as a DM, I know that. I mean, not saying I'm a DM, but like
No,
I know
if
I
you
know.
want to be, I have some tips. Brayden's tips. Brayden's tips of the hour.
He has a whole book. You go. I have some tips. Slams his book onto the table.
Yeah.
But so when you're a DM, to my knowledge, you have to like study up on the campaign that you're about to bring your players.
Yes.
So I know that there's like set campaigns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
I wish I had brought one.
but you can also make your own.
Yeah.
Right.
So right now I'm running my own. I don't really have a name for it, but I made my own world and stuff. I manufactured like continents. I put cities up. It's hard, and I'll tell that to anybody. If you're gonna DM for the first time, do not try doing that. And it's not. I'm not discouraging you or anything, but you've got to be
you have
super
to have a
careful.
little bit of experience.
Super careful.
under
In
your
fact,
belt.
when I decided I was going to build my world, I made sure to call everyone, and I was like, "Hey, I'm going to make my own world. Are you okay with that?" I had to make sure my players were comfortable.
And
Oh, yeah.
at first we were. I know a
Skeptical.
few of us were hesitant because it's like, well, there's this whole established world, and we're breaking away from that like halfway through.
Just
the
to
campaign.
make your own.
Just to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, it's
It was
not
for the better.
completely- Yeah, it's for the
In my
way for
opinion.
the better. You know, because then you can have more fun with the
Oh yeah.
the,
You get to
the lore.
yeah, you get to
Yes.
explore more than to what's just
like
in the books.
elves in his setting,
are different.
they're different, right? So like elves in Tolkien's, Lord of the Rings, they're like gods pretty
Yeah.
much. They're more powerful than any other race. But in a D&D setting, you can't really do that because
Players
it's not
can
balanced.
be elves too.
Yeah. Yeah, of
So
course.
in his setting, all the elves have left pretty
They-
much. The only
Yeah.
elves are like 3/4 elf.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
half elves are less so.
The elves,
Yeah.
if you guys would have given him a rundown of what that world is named and stuff, I don't want to be the one to say it because I feel like it's
Mile?
unjustified for me to say
Yeah,
it because I
Mile.
made it. So you guys want to
Yeah, we've
Just
got to.
brief?
Should we get into the world?
Don't get too
I don't think we
detailed.
should describe it all in detail, or else we're
We'll
going to
run
use
out
up
of time.
the 24 minutes we have left.
Oh, wow. It's been-
Yeah.
But just kind of tap into it a little. So what's it like? Just kind of
As a player,
roughly
as a player,
describe
what's
it.
your guys' opinion
So there's
on
like 3 regions. 2 of them hate each other. The one in the middle keeps the peace. We've got 3 main cities: Neverwinter, Baldur's Gate, and Water's Deep.
there she is again.
There's
There's,
the-
there's
the
Nova.
dog, yes.
She
She wants to
comes-
hear about my D&D
She comes in
world.
every episode. Everyone.
They've each got their own themes. Like
good.
so Neverwinter, the Platinum City, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a map.
That's
we've got.
that's Argent. That's a continent on Argent.
Oh, that's cool.
I should send that to you so you can
Yeah,
flash
send
it or
it.
something.
Send it.
And we've got the Platinum City. Water's Deep is more like industrial
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And Baldur's Gate, I
It's
forget.
kind of imperial, I guess. It's very, like, that's the city with the most laws, high taxes, more arcane magic like wizards, but you have to be certified. Whereas, what's the Neverwinter is
Mhm.
more clerical magic. Like,
Divine.
there's
It's known
hundreds
as
of churches
the
there.
city of the
for the
thousand
gods.
gods.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
There's a lot.
So, kind of branching off from D&D a little bit, there's another thing that's kind of related to it that Ian just brought me into, which is
nice.
called GURPS.
Yeah, that's
Ooh,
that's
so-
Ian's thing. That's
Let's get into this.
Straight
This is
up
gonna be
Ian's thing.
awesome.
So let's start with what is GURPS, Ian? Tell us what GURPS is.
So the name GURPS stands for Generic Universal Role Playing System.
And if that doesn't turn you onto that system, I don't know what will.
So essentially, it came out at a time when
Hi, Nova.
settings
Hi.
were tied to their system. So you play D&D, and you'd only be able to play within.
Nova, go lay
Fantasy.
down.
It's
It
mostly a
was
fantasy setting.
Faerun at the
yeah,
time, I
at the
believe.
time.
And then there was another setting for this separate thing for like sci-fi
Eberron
thing.
and
And
all
the
that.
people who made GURPS were like, "Hey, how about we just make a system that can be played for any setting?" And they made it, and it's called GURPS. It's okay. The way you make characters in D&D versus GURPS is way different. GURPS is like making a character in Fallout New Vegas, sort of.
Yeah.
While D&D, I don't know how to describe D&D.
There's not really much point of reference. It's just
It's
Yeah.
just
you have your
generic
stats
fantasy.
you roll for, or you could do the point by.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, you have your class and race and everything.
Here's
Yeah. Mm.
And
Good.
GURPS is way
That's
more
cool.
point by every single specific attributes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
you can run pretty much any setting in GURPS. There's a whole ton of extra rules that people have generously made, although rules being like a lot of people don't like the amount of rules that it has, but most of the rules just pertain to character creation,
Yeah.
and it's like within a certain situation you will pull that rule for your specific character. Like
I'll say this: it is much more complicated than D&D.
Way more
And
complicated.
personally, I could not run a GURPS campaign.
No.
It would make my brain fry.
We were joking about it earlier that like in GURPS you could play literally anything. If you want to be, you know, like a paralyzed person in a wheelchair that has psionic mind powers,
But also a guilt complex for
and
some
a guilt
reason.
complex. You have a guilt complex. That's
Yes.
all in there.
That's all in there for some
D&D,
reason.
you would have to talk to your demon about making that
Yes.
work.
Yeah, you'd have to like sit down and like
Really
okay, we have to
discuss.
make something
mean,
up
and,
here.
like,
you still
Even-
have to talk to your DM in GURPS. They're not gonna let you run a quadriplegic.
I don't know about that, Ian. What if I just showed up one day and was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to be a paralyzed quadriplegic.
hey, this is my character.
I would tell you to leave.
What if I showed? Well, what if I was in a horrific accident and I was paralyzed, and I asked you, out of the kindness of your heart, would you allow me to play a paralyzed character in the campaign?
That's a tough position to be in. You can't say no or else you're the jerk.
yeah. My character we just made not Saturday, last Friday.
Yeah.
Last Friday. Basically it's just a human gunslinger, just a guy with a gun, with
Yeah.
guns,
I
plural.
forget exactly what advantages, disadvantages, and skills I gave you.
Of course you forget. There's like 3 million.
Yeah, I know. There's
Come on.
there's
I
so
can
many.
pull out the book right
Please
now.
don't, please
There's hundreds of
There,
pages.
yeah, it's just pages upon pages upon pages of rules and stuff for your character. One of my disadvantages, I think it makes me laugh, is overconfidence. So whenever we're
That was a
fighting
good
a
one.
That's a really good
particularly
one.
strong enemy, I have like a disadvantage roll, which it just kind of makes me laugh because I'm not a strong guy. I'm just a guy with a gun.
Yeah.
So of course I'm gonna be
As we all
overconfident. Yeah, I'm gonna be overconfident because if I've got some like 8-foot owl person coming
Yes,
at me,
yeah.
I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm not scared. I'm just gonna shoot you with my gun.
I'm just gonna kill
Okay,
you.
but one of my
You're right,
favorite
dude.
things that happened last session, we had everybody there, which is perfect. I
Oh
love.
yeah.
It was the first session we had. So Riley has danger sense,
Yes.
and
Oh, you told me about this.
I
That's
rolled
great.
well for him, so I was able to give him information because there was a trap about to be triggered,
Yeah.
and it would have taken the floor out from under them, and they would have all fallen.
Yeah.
So he had the chance to warn everybody, but so the way I described it was the floor beneath you doesn't feel like it's floor, and there's scratching coming from the other side of the wall next to you, and so I was thinking, oh, he's probably gonna think it's like a lever going down is
Yeah.
what I'm describing, and the floor coming out. But what he just takes out his gun and like looks around for enemies,
And then he just
and then they all
Exactly what I
fall.
did. That's exactly what I did.
Like he said, wait again, guys, pull out your weapons. Like what's even worse is like everybody stopped.
everyone.
Yeah, well, I said, hang on, guys, everyone, pull out your weapons, and we all just stopped dead in our tracks, and then
It worse. The
and then,
danger sense made it worse.
I mean, I guess it wasn't really a pitfall, a trapdoor.
Yeah,
Door just
trapdoor.
opens. We all just fell. Luckily, oh my god, my voice. Luckily, we all managed to safely land, except for one of us. But he
Yeah.
he didn't take. It was
Landed on
Carson.
a sword.
No, but he didn't take a lot of damage. Just,
No,
just
just
hurt
hurt.
to his pride. Hurt to his pride. He had to climb back up and join us in the most scuffed fight ever.
Yeah.
Because we were all missing and
Yes.
everything was going poorly.
That's the one thing is when luck is just not working for either the DM or the players, it's
No,
just bad.
Yeah, the fights could go on for like 30 minutes. How long did it take us to kill those 2 rat people?
No clue.
It was just 2.
It was 3.
I mean, it
Our-
was the first one went pretty quickly. It took
Our
like 2
boss
rolls.
for this last D&D session for the first act that took like an hour and 30 minutes, and that's short.
Yeah,
That's
Yes,
a
yeah.
short
That
fight.
is a short
Most boss sessions last the whole thing,
And that's
which
like
could
6
be hours on
hours,
hours
literally
and hours.
6 to 7 hours. This last one was 10.
wow.
So
Wow.
We tore him apart.
yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Not to brag.
Nazar the Ascended. Rest in peace, buddy. Rest in peace.
Not to brag, but most of it was me because I'm cool.
like
He used his legendary action. He was gonna summon. He was using conjure animals, right? Which he would have called 2 giant spiders,
yeah.
which
Oh,
would have been an
Jeez,
issue.
his-
I
his whole theme is
counterspelled it,
spiders.
so just no spell.
Nothing
Ah.
He was
happened.
completely
And
alone.
now you were carrying the party pretty
Exactly.
much.
I think the whole fight lasted 3 rounds.
Did it?
Four.
Probably
I wouldn't
3 to
doubt
4
that.
rounds.
3? No. I remember exactly because okay, I started like at the
Yeah,
place
it
and I
was
went to the
it
pillar
was
and
short.
put a grenade in and like shot one as well. Then went over here, a fireball happened, and then I shot.
Yep, and
So
that
it
was
was
the
3
end.
rounds.
And then you guys just freaking, they just wrecked him. Just oh,
He couldn't even really hit us.
Didn't stand a chance.
Uh,
Yeah.
Before he turned into a giant spider monster, he was a drow, right? Those are dark elves, and they have this thing called sunlight sensitivity, where if there's sunlight, they get disadvantage
It's
on
like
rolls
they're
because they're from the
blinded.
Underdark. They're from
like
you know,
in
an
super dark
underground.
caves
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, of course.
So we have this magic item. I forget what it's called. We just call it Blippy.
Blippy.
But it's a floating orb that gives off light, and one of its things is it gives off the daylight spell. So I use that,
Yeah.
and because he's a drow and there's daylight, he had disadvantage on all his attack rolls.
In other words, it went. And by the end of it, there was a emotional story moment. One of the
Yeah.
characters' friends had died
Oh, no.
and was like used for a horrific experiment to manufacture that boss.
Yeah.
And so the boss was being held back by the last bits of that guy's soul, and it all turned sad. And one of my
Yeah.
Marcus, he was like, "Wow, this is sad music for a battle." I was like, "Marcus, this isn't a battle. This is an execution. This is not a battle."
It was I took more damage from my own party members than I did the
Also,
boss.
Actually,
only me.
the only damage dealt during the boss fight towards the party was from Chris. It was Arthur firing a fireball.
Well, no, wasn't there like an attack that actually hit somebody, right?
Nope, no, because I
Not
tried
one.
I tried to attack Chris, and he used shield. And it was freaking. It genuine. I was like briefly frustrated because I was like, "Dang, my monster isn't good enough." And then I was like, "Nah, I'm glad to see all my players are having a lot of fun, just wailing on a
Just
dude."
destroy.
Just
It's
destroy
only
things.
fun when we win.
Well, I mean, that's fair, of course.
fair.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So, so I kind of want to. I just said branch off from D&D, but now we're branching off
Branching
from
off
D&D
again.
and
This is getting
GURPS.
to a big tree, man.
I know we have 2 branches. So we're gonna branch off of this. I'm gonna talk to Brayton a little bit here. Brayton, you told me that you are one of the officers of the robotics team, yeah?
Oh yeah. So,
So tell me about that. What's that? What does that entail?
so we at our school, Lido High School, we have our robotics team, and it's made up of 3 teams. It's Overload, which is my team, High Voltage, and Circuit Breakers. Well, Overload just this last year had a couple seniors, and they were leaving, so we decided we wanted to kind of revitalize, redo everything, you know. So we have now the council, which is all the
Nice.
officers on the robotics team, which I believe there's 6 of us. It's Carson Younger, one of our D&D guys. Austin Hall is an actual captain. I am the community manager. Ian,
Different E.
Yeah.
Ian Creed, who's I believe a junior now.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's our notebook manager, and then what is his? Nick, can't remember his last name unfortunately, but Nick is our project manager. Super cool guy.
Cool.
So we have the council, and it's really fun. Robotics has always been a really fun, enjoyable thing. I'm not a very practical person. I'm not very good with my hands. As you can see, I play D&D, and I make stupid worlds, and I laugh at them and make fun.
We're
So
And I laugh.
we're all
I create
lucky to
and
have
then I
that.
laugh.
and I laugh.
So how long have you been one of the officers?
This
Have
will
you-
be my first year.
first year.
First year. This next year, senior year, will be my first year as an officer. But last year I was very intertwined with the officer roles, so I could almost consider myself as one last year.
Like an
too.
honorary
honorary
officer.
officer guy.
Yeah, that's cool. So when you guys are making robots, like how does that? Where do you start? Because if someone told me make a robot, I wouldn't. You could put me in front of the highest quality like components and parts for a robot in the world, and I wouldn't know what to do.
If anybody at home knows that answer, because I don't. If anybody at home knows the answer of how you build a robot, we just kind of improv. We pray, improv, and it works.
Well, I know
Just
that
kind of trial and error.
in the robot competitions.
Yeah.
They have specific things that they need to
Yeah.
do, like
Yeah,
build a block
in all
tower
seriousness,
thing.
you know, we have to look at what the parameters for the competition are. You know, the size limits, the weight limits, and then we usually hold votes and stuff like that. We have several people in the engineering side of things that are come up with ideas, and then we hold votes to the whole team, and we have to keep records and pictures and all kinds of weird, kind of annoying stuff.
And if the robot becomes sentient, you have to disassemble it.
No
like-
disassemble.
like I like to
Number
say-
5 alive.
Like I like to say, the robots like to pretend they're sentient, but just don't mind it. Just pretend like they're not, and they will
Just
never
everyone
realize
stay
it.
calm. Everyone stay calm.
Just don't tell them that we exist. Don't tell them that don't tell it exists, and everything will be fine.
Not to brag or anything, but I'm kind of the robot master myself. I was 8 years old once, and I took a Lego robotics camp in the summer. So
dude!
I went to the TCU campus. Yeah, I kind of made some
I can do you
robots.
one
You know, I was able to kick a paper ball across my desk. So
better. I can do you
That's
one better.
pretty
The
good.
only thing I remember from my 5th grade robotics thing was spilling coffee on a computer. That's the only thing I remember.
Oh my goodness.
Dang, he's got the real experience.
I got the experience, man. Breaking computers and
Yeah.
being a general nuisance overall.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So Ian, I don't know if you still do this, but you did programming, coding.
Oh yeah. So this sort of happened 8th grade, I think. 8th grade
Must be.
summer.
I want to say it was about 8th
Before
grade.
he gets into all the cool serious stuff, I just want it to be noted that he's wearing a chicken suit.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
this
had to
is
mention
what
this
you
at
This
some
whole
point.
time, I just want the audience to be able to picture in their minds when he starts talking all this serious programming stuff.
He's wearing
Uh,
chicken pajamas.
He's wearing chicken pajamas
a
for no
onesie.
one's else satisfaction other than himself.
No one gets to see it but him.
But
Yeah.
There's Nova.
There's the
again.
dog again.
The dog is here again.
Came to see the chicken suit.
Yeah. As soon as we started speaking about it, she was excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
So
He
anyway,
wants to give us some coding
so
tips.
coding. I almost
Yes.
said programming.
So I learned how to code
Programming.
Python via a computer camp at like TCU that my mom signed me up for, and I was pretty happy. I learned how to code, Python is a coding language, and
So
we're coding a little video game with it.
So what's a coding language?
It's okay.
Is it like basically like a program to help you?
Yeah,
Code,
it,
it's
it
like-
helps the computer understand what you are trying to make it do.
Okay.
So
It's like the translator.
yeah,
Like you're
it-
making the
it's-
code, put it through, and
It's
then
like if the computer speaks a certain language and you speak a certain language, it's the language in between.
Okay.
So you know how all computers like run on binary and stuff.
Yeah.
These are certain commands that command the computer to do this or that. So you can do all sorts of stuff like draw a little window that'll open. Is what I learned to do. Mostly we worked with if statements where it's like, if this thing happens, then this other thing will happen, and stuff like that. So like if you press on this key, redraw or set the velocity of something and redraw it. What's really interesting is have you ever played a video game and like gone outside of bounds of the map and like you see the repeating textures?
Yes.
Yes.
That's just because it doesn't draw the screen again.
Oh.
It doesn't have anything to draw there. So it's just repeatedly drawing the only things it already has on there.
I see.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of
That's
sense.
that's cool.
So
That's
when you
good to
first
know.
start doing it, you'll like draw a screen and then you'll make your little guy and you'll like move and you'll redraw it several times.
I see.
And it'll redraw and you'll just have a line of your dudes.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, so you need to draw the background again and again and again and again in a certain order. Like
So it's like your backdrop sort of.
yes,
Yeah. That's cool.
Cool. So did you do programming like just at school or like at home?
okay. So that was the camp is what started sort of like me being obsessed with programming. I did start taking the STEM pathway in school. Where we'd go there.
STEM is cool.
Yeah, STEM is cool. I also got some coding programs at home. I haven't coded much recently, but I do remember coding a little tiny video game where there's a little frog that you could jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember specifically, every coder has this sort of problem. So I coded it and went to test it, and he would jump and then only slowly fall back down.
So
And
you had to-
for an hour, I spent going over the code, seeing what exactly went wrong, putting like things that would print here or there onto
Yeah.
the computer to tell me what's wrong. And then what I figured out is I just like in Python, this will be something that happens. I indented it wrong. So
Yeah.
like you'll have a statement thing, and this thing has to be indented to be in that statement.
The newer Pythons will tell you if it's wrong or if something's upset. Like,
Well, yeah, I was using the
older versions,
no, it was like an IDE. I don't know exactly
the terms.
the terms. It was something where I could put it in, save it as a note file, and then run it through the Python
Yeah,
thing.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
there's-
I was using notes, not a specific like coding software.
Like, yeah, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah. Christian, do you have any fancy things that you do?
He draws.
He draws.
When-
That's
when I
pretty quick.
get-
That's the
From
When
other
I get
cast.
the motivation,
Yeah.
This is the only character trait that he ever has.
I
He
draw
draws.
and I play D&D.
That's
So-
it. That's all he is.
So when did you like I guess start drawing like when did you pick it up as kind of a hobby?
When I was a
been
little
drawing,
kid,
yeah.
it was this kind of weird thing where I was like, I need a gimmick. I need
Yeah.
something to do.
That's the same thing with me.
So
I
when
started drawing.
people you
Yeah.
know see you and they're like, oh yeah, that's the guy that does
Yeah.
the thing.
That's
Exactly.
the draw guy.
Drawing guy.
The drawing guy.
I mean, I don't know. I'm really not doing a lot right now. I wanted to get back into theater because I mean, you and I were in theater together for a short
yeah, in
period. I was
8th
on
grade.
set crew. Ninth grade.
Ninth grade. You were here
Because I
in
was
ninth
on
grade,
set
right?
crew. I believe you were on lights crew.
Yeah, lights.
And that was a good time.
That was.
Like that was really really fun. And then I switched schools.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
for sophomore year, and I just never got back into theater. Like I wanted to, but
It's
There's this
kind of
thing-
hard with a new school.
yeah, it is for sure. I wasn't a good time for me in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because I, for ninth grade, when we were in set crew, or when I was in set crew, that was like the happiest I was at. Like,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh man, I'm in theater and I have friends.
Yeah, you get to
and I
do
have a
all this cool
girlfriend,
stuff.
And this is how it's always going to be.
And then,
And then it
all
wasn't.
came crashing
It
down.
all came crashing down. So I was like, dude, this sucks. I'm never going to be happy again.
This is villain backstory number
Villain
one.
back. Yeah.
Yeah,
this is-
this is
I will
his-
say this: out of any of our group in D&D, Christian is the easiest one to become a supervillain.
it was kind of this thing where it's like I was bummed out because I switched schools and but I kind of just ended up making myself miserable, because I wasn't really trying.
Well, that's
I
the
just
easiest
I was
part.
like either I
Yeah.
go back to Alito and somehow everything goes back to how it was, or I will never be happy again.
Yeah,
I will refuse.
yeah, yeah,
And now that Corona happened, I really can't get back into theater. So.
yeah. Because it's kind of hard now. Because
But
Yeah.
it's okay. I mean, once I realized I was just making myself miserable, I started playing D&D more, and so it's a
Hanging out
cautionary tale, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
let
of course.
stupid things.
That's.
ruin
I
your
think that's.
life.
I had to go through the same thing. This coronavirus quarantine has been brutal for me.
No D&D. for
No
kids.
D&D,
yeah.
no nothing. All my freaking existence runs off being able to play off of other people and use them. I'm a manipulative, not really cool dude, I guess. I'm a control freak. I need I crave that kind of
Power.
being able. Yeah, I guess so. It's weird. It's this kind of weird thing, and if I don't have that, if I'm not able to make people. And the key to that is I don't just make them miserable. I don't crave power to make people miserable. I try to use it to make them happy and stuff. But the key to that is if I can't do that, I just get depressed.
Mhm.
For like, I don't know, like 2 months there, I just was just
He was,
Yeah.
he was in a slump.
I was
For sure.
I was in a
yeah,
big slump.
yeah. We all kind of. It all hit us in different ways for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As a guy who really enjoys video games,
Mhm.
quarantine.
Gamer win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't really as bad. Like I hear a lot of people who are like, they're like dying to get out and they're trying to just like sneak out just to like experience the outdoors again. And like,
Please.
don't get me wrong, I love the outdoors, but for me, like, I could have just sat down and just played games. Not all day, obviously.
Yeah.
But sat down, just played games for a while, and just kind of relaxed. But then it kind of started like later towards the end, like mid to late March. I really kind of started to get a little like,
You get bored. You
yeah.
get
I
bored,
just
frankly.
I got
You're
bored with
like-
everything. I was like, okay, I need to see my friends again. I need to get
Yeah.
out because at first I was just like, oh, this is just what I'd be doing at spring break. If I didn't have plans, I'd just be at home, just playing video games, hanging out, spending time with family or whatever. Again, if I didn't have plans. And then since we were at quarantine, I was like, it's just like an extended break. But
Yeah.
over time, I just kind of got more and more like, I was dying to like talk to my friends or get out
Exactly,
and
yeah.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I don't think it's too bad to spend time with your friends during all of this, as long as you keep it within that group. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
kind of the beauty
Yes.
of
The
our
difference
D&D
between
group.
being a party and a, just a
Yeah.
group of friends,
We really only hang out with each other.
Mhm.
no
Oh
one
yeah,
else.
of course.
So
Yeah.
it's like when we hang out, we're just going from one quarantine to another.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
It's definitely.
It's good when, like, in that scenario, it's good because everyone's just kind of already hanging out with each other all the time, so you're not really like, oh, this one person has been out and hanging out with a bunch of other people during quarantine.
Yeah.
We have to be
Yeah.
careful of them or whatever. It's just kind of like,
It's only
hey, we
us.
know you've only been with us.
Yeah.
So-
we
and-
know you aren't out partying.
Yeah.
Hey,
you're
we
just
know
a
you.
loser.
Get back here playing D&D.
I'll say this, like my kind of philosophy on it is as long like if you have someone to protect, like if you live with your grandparents or you live with your great grandparents or something,
Oh, yeah.
somebody or even a little sister to some degree,
Yeah,
like
don't
young
take the risk.
toddlers, be careful,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
be very careful. But when us and the boys, we're like brothers, so it's like
Yeah.
if one of us gets the corona, the rest of us are just gonna be like, haha, loser, idiot.
Wow, stupid. Imagine going out during quarantine.
Yeah, what a moron.
We'll call him weak immune system for the rest of
Yeah,
his
his
life.
entire
Yeah.
existence.
I'm
So
not
they'll be
gonna
like,
lie.
guys, stop.
Well, anyway, sorry. We have to
Yeah.
we have to wrap this up because we're
Yeah.
going overtime.
Yep.
So if you've made it this far, thank you so much
you.
for
Thank you.
staying tuned.
I'm so
if
sorry.
you like us, yeah,
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. If you like the three boys that we had here, please tell Riley so we can come back.
Yeah,
like this.
I want to come back.
I
If
wanna
you'd
do
like
this,
us,
like-
please come to our houses.
Yeah. Riley,
join
Riley,
the
Riley, I'm gonna ask
tabletop-
this on the podcast. Can we do a second episode of the podcast and just order them back to back? We can do
I
another
don't know.
45 minutes.
we gotta,
Hey guys, welcome back. We have
The guys again.
We have Ian, Christian, and Brayton on for the fifth
Like,
episode.
Just go take a break and
Yes.
get some lunch and then come back. And
We
do a
should come
second-
back and
another
record
episode.
Nice.
our part two.
But yeah, join the tabletop gaming club
Yeah.
at Aledo High School.
If you're in high school
Assuming
or
school
a
ever
teacher,
starts again.
Yeah.
sure, of course. If you're a teacher and you have a club that you want to start endorsing, I want to start the tabletop RPG club. Hopefully,
Nice.
don't quote me on this. If anybody, I don't do it, please. I might
Yeah.
not. I don't know.
Please bully him into doing it.
Please
That
don't.
would be
Yes.
fun.
Please do not
Show
do
up
that.
to his house.
My address is 123.
That's good.
123 street name.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But anyway, sorry. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Again, if you've made it this far, I hope to see y'all in the next one. I know this kind of episode was just out of the blue, but I'm keeping you on your toes. So,
Keep
so
your toes on
Little
the-
be
sucker
ready.
punch
Be
for
ready
you.
for the upcoming episode. This one's gonna take a little longer to prepare because I don't even know where I want to start. I don't know who I want and what I want to talk about. So I'm just gonna have to
It'll
develop
be
it.
us.
I'm
It's
just
gonna
gonna have
be
to,
us.
I'm gonna have to develop it over time.
Yeah.
So please be patient with me here. The next episode is gonna be in the works. So yeah, thank you again for for staying tuned, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Everyone, stay safe out there.
Bye.
Bye.
I love you.
Bye. I love you. I'm in love with you.